Good morning, everyone. It's a lovely spring day, slightly grey sky though. Anyhow, I've realised as teaching this stuff online is that basically you need some examples of some writing that's brilliant, that is absolutely classic, so that you know what a really, really good description looks like. So this is an example of a really, really good description by a woman called Mary Kingsley. She was a famous explorer at the end of the Victorian period. Um, and she wrote a book called Travels in West Africa. Yeah, and she was a female explorer in the 1890s. So she's very, very rare, actually. Not like today when females are saving the world and in charge, like Merkel and Jacinda in New Zealand. This is a time where women just stayed in the house, where they were the angel in the house. So she's quite brave. Anyway, she wrote a book about it to tell everybody about it back in the UK and in America, to tell them all about what it was like in West Africa, basically, because it was so gorgeous. So here we go. I once came upon a leopard. I had got caught in a tornado in a dense forest. The massive, mighty trees were waving like a wheat field in an autumn gale in England. And I dare say a field mouse in a wheat field in a gale would have heard much the same uproar. The tornado shrieked like 10,000 vengeful demons. The great trees creaked and groaned and strained against it, and the bush rope cables groaned and smacked like whips, and ever and anon a thundering crash with snap-like pistol shots told that they and their mighty tree had strained and struggled in vain. The fierce rain came in a roar, tearing to shreds the leaves and blossoms and deluging everything. Deluging means flooding. I was making bad weather of it, and I climbed up over a lot of rocks. She's honest here. Out of a gully bottom where I had been half drowned in a stream. So a gully is the bottom of a sort of a ravine or an incline. Where I'd been half drowned in a stream, so there's streams at the bottom of a gully normally. And on getting my head to the level of a block of rock, I observed right in front of my eyes a broadside on, which means sideways on, maybe a yard off, certainly not more, a big leopard. He was crouching on the ground with his magnificent head thrown back and his eyes shut. His forepaws were spread out in front of him, and he lashed the ground with his tail. And I am sorry to say, in face of that awful danger, I don't mean me, but the tornado that creature swore softly but repeatedly and profoundly. Nice use of and personification. I did not notice all these facts in one glance, for no sooner did I see him than I ducked under the rocks and remembered, thankful, that leopards are said to have no power of smell. So she's relieved because you won't be able to smell her. But I heard his observation on the weather, so it's humour here, even though it's very dangerous. But I heard his observation on the weather, and the flip-flap of his tail on the ground, sense description. Look back at my template to look how you write a really, really good bit of writing, and she's used all the ingredients. Every now and then I cautiously took a look at him with one eye round a rock edge, and he remained in the same position. My feelings tell me he remained there 12 months, but my calmer judgment puts the time down at 20 minutes. And at last, on taking another cautious peep, I saw he was gone. Anyway, this is a beautiful piece of writing. And if you go back to the beginning, I had got caught in a tornado in a dense forest. So massive, mighty alliteration, 2 adjectives, waving like a wheat field in an autumn gale in England. So it's obviously in the middle of Africa in a tornado. The trees are waving like field grass. So she's imagining she's got as much power as a little tiny mouse in a wheat field. That's a simile, isn't it? Like a wheat field in an autumn gale in winter. And she's likening herself to a field mouse. So that's a metaphor. She's turning herself into a field mouse in some way. The tornado shrieked like 10,000 vengeful demons. Really gorgeous. Noise, metaphor, simile. The great trees creaked and groaned and strained. Rule of 3. An onomatopoeia, sounds like it is groaned and strained and creaked. Good verbs. And their bush rope cables groaned and smacked like whips, more similes, groaned repetition, and noise, a thundering crash with snaps like pistol shots told that they and their mighty tree had strained and struggled in vain. I think basically you've got these huge trees with great big vines on them, and they're sort of keeping them up. And then in this enormous tornado, the vines, the bush rope cables basically, are snapping. And then you've got the fierce rain came in a roar, tearing to shreds the leaves and blossoms and deluging everything. So, and then on top of that, you've got sort of an enormous downpour of powerful rain. And she's drowned in the middle of it. Because obviously all this rain's turning it all into streams. And the leopard as well is crouching on the ground with his magnificent head thrown back and his eyes shut. So a beautiful description of the leopard. And he's groaning as well and moaning about the storm, because he's in danger as well. They're all in danger from this horrible storm. Well, not horrible, powerful force of nature. But she's humorous about it. She's brave. She sees this and she says, I heard his observation on the weather and the flip flap of his tail on the ground. So she turns out to be quite a humorous female explorer. I like this. I can do more of it if you want, but that's actually a breakdown of a very well written piece from the 1890s. You could steal a lot from that. If you go back to that other video I did on looking at a forest, you could actually steal a bit of that and make it a little bit more active, I suppose. But certainly you could use all of these tips in here. And if you go back to my creative writing template, she's used them all, hasn't she? All right, I hope you find that helpful. And it's just basically giving you a really good idea of how to write a description. And I think a lot of you haven't actually read brilliant descriptions, so here is one. All right then. Hope you like that, and I'll make you another video soon. Bye.